Hello, everyone, and welcome to our latest online event here at the University of California, Merced. My name is Ricky Hill, and I am the e-recruiter here at UC Merced. A huge welcome to you. We are thrilled that you are taking some time out of your evening to join us for this Become a Bobcat virtual series event. Tonight, we will be speaking exclusively about financial aid. Our event this evening is focused on understanding your financial aid award offer. We are hoping to be able to get to all of your great questions tonight. So if you can try and focus those on financial aid, we will hopefully be able to get to all of those. If you do have other questions, we are fully staffed behind the scenes and we will do our very best to get to everything this evening. Before we get started, let me give you a couple of quick tips. If you would like to adjust your audio settings, you can do so in the lower left corner of your screen by clicking the audio settings button. If you would like to adjust the size of your window, you can do that by clicking View Options in the upper portion of your screen. Lastly, and most importantly, we would love to get to those questions tonight. As I mentioned, we do have a Q&A button available for you, so go ahead and click on that at any time. You can submit those questions throughout the presentation, and we, as I said, are fully staffed behind the scenes to try and get to those throughout. However, we would like to mention that a lot of this presentation will probably touch on most, if not all, of your important questions tonight. So please pay close attention to what we are sharing this evening. Feel free at any time to take some screenshots of what you're seeing, and then also, as I said, we will have that opportunity for live question and answer towards the end of this event. One more quick reminder, we are recording this event tonight. So if you do happen to want to rewatch this later, have your family or friends join you, if you do have follow-up questions, or you just happen to know someone that misses tonight's live event, they will have an opportunity to watch that on demand throughout the Become a Bobcat website. We will make sure that we drop that link for you in the chat so that you can take a look at that at your leisure later on, and also take a look at other recordings as we have those happening. Once again, my name is Ricky Hill. A great honor to be here with you tonight for this wonderful financial aid event. At this time, I'd like to hand things over to the Director of Financial Aid and Scholarships, Ron Radney.
Thank you, Ricky. Hello to all our new Bobcats. I'm so excited to share some great information with you tonight. I'm joined by several of my esteemed colleagues who will be monitoring chat and answering all your questions throughout the presentation. We'll also try to leave some time, like Ricky said, at the end of the presentation to answer some questions live. So if everybody is ready, let's jump into it. Next slide, please. Hey, UC Merced has achieved several national rankings in a few short years, including #1 in sustainable buildings, #1 in the nation in sustainable research, #1 in the nation in percentage of students who receive need-based financial aid, #1 in the nation for outperforming expected graduation rates, just to name a few. Next slide. So as you can see from this list, we're going to cover a lot of information tonight. As Ricky said, if you miss anything, the presentation should be available on the Admissions Become a Bobcat website by next week. Next slide. We will begin mailing out printed version of your offer letters to you within the next few days. Here is what the cover page will look like when you receive that letter. I've circled an important link, which is the Connect platform link. And it also is where you will see your financial aid offer, as well as all of the outstanding items that you need to complete for your financial aid file. Next slide, please. So you can view your financial aid offer now by logging into the Connect platform. Click Students and then navigate down to the UCM Net ID. Click the Account Claim and answer the questions to establish your system access. Next slide. So here on the left, when you first log into the system, it's going to ask you to identify if you're a student, staff, faculty, or other. And so you would click on student, and the system will remember that you claimed that you're a student, so you won't have to go through that again. And then when you get to the next screen, you'll click on undergraduate. And then the next screen, you'll go down to UCM Net ID, and you'll have to answer some questions to claim your Net ID so that you can have access to the system. Once you have access to the system, you'll click on My Merced at the top there. Next slide. And then once you get into My Merced, you'll see on the left here a screen that looks like this, and you'll click on My Financial Aid, which I've circled there for you. And then that will take you to your student record. And the last click is Offer Letter or Award Offer, which I've circled for you there. And that's the way to see your award offer. Next slide. So here was what the financial aid offer looks like. It's divided into sections. So the top section includes any gift aid awarded to you. This would include things like grants and scholarships. And gift aid is free. It's money that you don't have to repay. And just a note, we're awarding freshman scholarships now, and we'll begin awarding transfer scholarships in early April. So if you receive a scholarship, your award will be revised and you'll be notified by email. The next section of the award letter is the self-help that's been offered, and self-help includes federal student loans, parent loans, and or work study. And I'll talk more about each one of those in another slide here coming up. The third section is estimated cost of attendance. Now, these are not your actual expenses since there are multiple housing and meal plan options to select from. It's just an average that we use to determine your financial aid eligibility. Your actual university charges will be posted to your student account probably in late July, early August. So as I said, these are just estimated expenses at this point. Next slide. So the last section is the estimated direct net costs. Direct costs are those components from the third box in the previous slide that are paid directly to the university, such as tuition and fees, room and board if you're living on campus, and mandatory UC health insurance, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. If we subtract your total gift aid that has been awarded minus from your cost of attendance, it will equal your net cost. And that would give you a rough idea of how much self-help you may need in like student loans or parent loans, or to make payments. Work study is earned throughout the year. It's not applied to your balance. Instead, the student would receive a paycheck for the hours they work, which I'll talk about more in a few minutes. Again, these are only estimates. Your actual charges will be posted to your student account, like I said, in late July, early August. Next slide. So most financial aid requires a student have financial need. So you may be asking, what the heck is financial need and how is it determined? So we developed three, what we call standardized cost of attendance budgets for each year. A budget for students who live on campus, a budget for students who live off campus, and a budget for students who live at home. These budgets include all the components listed in your cost of attendance, such as tuition fees, room and board, an estimate of your books and supplies, transportation to and from school, personal expenses, and health insurance. We then subtract your expected family contribution, which is an index number calculated by the government when they process your aid application, and it's based on your household income and household size. The difference between these two numbers is what we consider to be your financial need. We then award need-based aid to cover the financial needs as well as non-need-based aid. Next slide. So here are some common types of gift aid. Students who completed a FAFSA may be eligible for federal Pell Grant. Awards are on a sliding scale. Maximum is $6,895 for the year. And just a note, Congress approved a $400 increase, increasing the maximum Pell from $64.95 to $68.95 just a few days ago. So we will be revising financial aid packages this summer to include the additional amount. Students with the lowest expected family contribution, which is that index number that's calculated by the government, may also receive an SCOG grant, which is Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant, which is a very limited fund. And so we award it to our neediest students. Next, let's see. Students who complete the FAFSA or DREAM application may be eligible for state aid. So such as Cal Grant A or Cal Grant B. The state provides us with a roster of eligible students who have listed our school code on their aid application. And if you are a transfer student and had Cal Grant at your previous school, you'll be notified, or you will need to notify the California Student Aid Commission that you have changed schools so that you appear on our roster and we can award Cal Grant to you. There's also a middle class scholarship, which is a state aid program to assist students with household incomes below 191,000. This program is currently being restructured by the state of California, and we're awaiting details on how it will be, who will be eligible and the amounts of the awards. So as soon as we get that information, we will be repackaging students with middle class scholarship awards. California resident students who submitted their aid application by the March 2nd deadline and who have remaining financial need may be awarded what we call a Bobcat grant, which is institutional aid. We also award academic scholarships. All incoming freshmen and transfer students are automatically considered for UC Merced scholarships based on your admissions application data. So there's no additional application process for scholarships. We use your admissions application data to determine scholarships for new students. As I indicated earlier, we're awarding freshman scholarships now, and we'll begin awarding transfer scholarships in early April. If you have any external scholarships from an outside organization that you're bringing to UC Merced, please report them through the Connect platform. There's a link in there to report outside aid. Next slide, please. Okay, so earlier I said that we would talk a little bit about work study and student loans. So on your left here is information about federal work study. This is a federal program where they give an allocation of funds to the school to employ students while they're in school to help give them some job experience and cover part of their costs of attending school. So students could work up to 18 hours a week while in school. During breaks, they can actually work more than that. You'll receive a paycheck every 2 weeks. Funds are earned throughout the year and not applied to your university account like other aid. So you won't see it applied to your any balance that you have on your account. Instead, you'll receive a paycheck directly. You can earn up to the amount awarded. It helps build your resume, and work study earnings do not affect future financial aid eligibility. So once we get into August, then students would click on the joinhandshake.com login to look for available positions on campus if they've been awarded with federal work study, and then you would basically apply to those positions. So you'll interview and be hired on 2 positions on campus. And of course, those positions are going to have flexible schedules and work around your class schedule. The great thing is you don't have to obviously go off campus to work because everything's going to be right here on campus. Now, students who are not awarded federal work study can also work on campus, and those are considered our non-work study student assistant jobs. The jobs are pretty much the same. The pay is the same. It just is the funding source that's different. With federal work study, the funding source is the federal government. With student assistant jobs, the funding source is actually the university that's paying the wages. So those jobs will be available through the Handshake system as well in August, in early August. On the right there, you see information about student loans. There are several different types of student loans. The first one is a California Dream Loan, and that would be for the students who complete a DREAM application. If we award a dream loan to you and you accept it, that loan, there are no origination fees on that loan, and there's no interest or payments until 6 months after the student leaves school or drops below half-time enrollment, whichever comes first. And the interest rate is a fixed interest rate on that loan. Currently, it's 3.73%. And then there are federal student loans, and these would be for students who complete a FAFSA. And so there are 3 different types of loans here for them. One is called a subsidized loan, and it's very similar in its terms to the California Dream Loan. There's no interest or payments 6 months until 6 months after the student either graduates or drops below half-time enrollment. The interest rate is the same, 3.73%. There is a loan origination fee of about 1%, a little over 1%. And then there's an unsubsidized loan. An unsubsidized loan, you don't have to have financial need for an unsubsidized loan. In this case, it has the same interest rate, same origination fees. The difference between the subsidized and unsubsidized is when the interest begins. For the unsubsidized loan, the interest begins immediately, and you can elect not to pay the interest while you're in school, and it will be capitalized back into your loan after you graduate or drop below half-time enrollment. And then finally, the Parent Plus loan, where the parent is the borrower, and this would be to support the student's education. It has a higher interest rate and a higher origination fee. There is a credit approval process for parent loans, not for student loans. The interest begins immediately and payments begin when the loan is fully dispersed. However, the parent may defer the payments while the student is enrolled at least half-time. Next slide, please. Earlier, I mentioned that there's a mandatory UC health insurance plan. If you have comparable health insurance coverage, you may be eligible for a waiver. For more information about the health insurance plan or the waiver, here are the links, and you can see more information about that, which is posted on our Student Health Center website. Next slide, please. So beginning in 2008, 2009, the UC implemented the Blue and Gold Opportunity Plan, which promised that the UC system-wide tuition and fees would be covered for all students with household incomes below $80,000, with gift aid from a combination of sources. Now, this gift aid would include any gift aid that you receive from federal, state, or institutional sources. And the promise is that that will be at least enough to cover all of your system-wide tuition and fees. On our campus, most of our students that are below $80,000 income have well above the amount of tuition and fees and gift aid. Next slide, please. New this year is the UC Tuition Stability Plan. This was just passed by the UC Board of Regents. It freezes your UC system-wide tuition and fees for 6 years or until you graduate, whichever occurs first. The intent of the program is to provide some cost stability to you. So when you enter this year as a freshman or a transfer student, your UC system-wide tuition and fees will be frozen for up to 6 years or until you graduate. Next slide, please. So many of you have applied to multiple universities. The best way to compare financial aid offers from universities with different costs of attendance is to focus on the net price. So here's a comparison example of UC Merced and a CSU campus example for an on-time applicant who's a low-income California resident student. As you can see, our cost of attendance is higher than the CSU campus. However, if you are eligible for a health insurance waiver, and after taking into consideration your gift aid, the net price is actually lower at UC Merced. Even if you're not eligible for a health insurance waiver, the net price would be about the same. as the CSU. A lot of people are surprised by that. That's the best way to compare one institution to another, is to look at the net price. Next slide, please. So when the government processes your aid application, they select a percentage of applicants for a process called verification, which essentially means that the school must verify that the data you entered on the aid application is accurate. We do that by requesting documentation from you, such as a tax return, W-2 form, etc. You may be selected for verification at random by the federal government or for obvious errors on your application. So in the future, when you have to complete your application each year to maintain your aid eligibility, we do offer financial aid workshops to help you to complete your aid application. If you were selected for verification, your financial aid awards are locked, meaning you can't accept or decline any work study or student loans until we complete our review. If there's a discrepancy between the information that you entered on the aid application and your verification documents, then we'll correct your aid application electronically and recalculate your aid eligibility, and then unlock your award so you can accept or decline your aid. Next slide, please. So here's what the checklist looks like in the Connect portal. Items that you see with a red X are missing documents. Items with a yellow triangle have been received and are pending review, and items with a green check mark are completed. The most important thing to know here is that the deadline for submitting documents to us to complete your financial aid file is June 1st. Okay, next slide. Earlier, I referenced that we developed 3 different cost of attendance budgets each year. Here are our budgets for on-campus, off-campus, and at home. Using the same student in my previous net price comparison example, here's what their net price would look like if they lived off-campus or at home compared to on-campus. The arrows that you see basically signify the components that are direct costs or directly paid to the university, such as tuition and fees, room and board if you're living on campus, and the mandatory UC health insurance. Next slide. So if we focus just on the direct costs in the same example, the student who lived on campus, they would have a net cost of about $5,124. If they lived off campus or at home, they would receive a refund of about $5,700, which they could use then to help them with room and board, books and supplies, or other expenses. Next slide. So we've developed what we call a direct cost worksheet web app. And this can be used by you to calculate your costs until the actual university charges are posted to your student account in late July, early August. When you log into this app, it will pre-populate an estimate of your direct costs, as well as the amount of gift aid that you've been awarded. You can then manually manipulate the costs and it will automatically recalculate. So for example, if you know what type of room that you want to be in, like a double or a triple or a quad, you can take those actual costs from the housing office and you can put them into this worksheet. So basically overwrite what we have as an estimate of your costs and put in the actual charges. Same with the meal plan. Health insurance, if you believe that you're eligible for a waiver, you can remove that cost from this worksheet. Also, if you have non-resident tuition showing and you believe that you're eligible for an AB 540 fee waiver by filing a statement of legal residence, you can remove the non-resident fees. If you have any outside scholarships, you can enter those as well. The balance at the bottom of the tool will automatically update, which provides an estimate of the amount of direct costs you'll need to cover through either payment or student loans. There are some limitations to this tool to be aware of. It will not automatically adjust your aid based on changes you make to this worksheet. It's only meant to provide a more realistic estimate of your costs until your actual charges are posted. So it's just a tool for you to use to help better estimate your costs. Next slide. So if for some reason you missed the March 2nd priority deadline to file your FAFSA or DREAM application, or our June 1st document deadline, you may submit a one-time appeal as an undergraduate. If approved, we will revise your financial aid as if you met the deadline. The appeal opens June 1st. Also, just to let everybody know, the state of California has extended their application deadline for Cal Grant consideration to April 1st. So if you haven't completed your financial aid application yet, there is still time to do so to be considered for state aid. The FAFSA and DREAM application asks for prior year income, and we realize that your household income may have changed significantly since then. If you've experienced a recent loss of income, parent separation or divorce, since filing your aid application, a one-time payment received temporarily inflating your household income, or any other special circumstance, you can complete a special circumstance request. This form is open now. If approved, we will recalculate your aid based on your current income instead of your prior year income. Finally, if you have additional out-of-pocket costs not covered by insurance, such as medical, dental, optical, if you commute a long distance to school, or have disability-related expenses or a recent computer purchase, you may submit a cost of attendance adjustment form, and that is available now as well. Next slide. So the campus offers a deferred payment plan for student account balances. You can enroll online beginning August 1st. Your balance will be divided into 4 monthly payments. There's a $40 fee to enroll in the deferred payment plan, and it must be paid with the first payment. And the deferred payment plan is only good for the semester that you sign up for it. So if you need it for multiple semesters, you have to re-sign up. Next slide, please. So this is a screenshot of our financial aid website. And I've included the content of each drop-down menu just so you can see the information that's available. It includes how to apply for aid, types of aid, receiving your financial aid, forms and requirements, resources, including a parent guide, appeals, how to contact us, including location, hours, and events. There's also icons here at the bottom of the screen that you can see that you can click on for more information about verification, disbursement, cost. There's a general net price calculator, parent information, and contact information. There's lots of information on our website, so please take advantage of that resource. Next slide, please. So several of our web pages now have a Google Translate link that you can click on to convert the information to Spanish for our Spanish-speaking community. So we're pleased to offer that on our website as well. Next slide. At the bottom of our website, you'll see an FATV and an FATV Spanish icon. These links are to video library of topics and tutorials on financial aid. So if you don't like reading information, most of the information is in a video content. So if you prefer to watch a video, that's the way to go. Just click on that and you can scroll through. There's a whole video library of up-to-date tutorials and information. Next slide. So I'm really excited to say that we have a financial wellness center that provides one-on-one coaching sessions with students on topics like personal budgeting, credit scores, salary negotiation, student loan repayment, emergency savings, financial crisis, all kinds of things you see there on the right-hand side that we coach students on. And we've gotten great feedback on our financial wellness program. So please take advantage of this outstanding resource. Next slide, please. So here's a timeline of important dates. They include October 1st date when you complete the FAFSA or California Dream application opens, and you can complete it after that date. And you'll have to remember that you need to complete this each year that you're in college between the October 1st date and the March 2nd priority deadline date, which is the next date on this timeline. So that would be the priority filing deadline for California. And then the next deadline is May 1st, which is our student intent to register deadline for freshmen. So this is when you commit to coming to UC Merced by submitting your intent to register. And then June 1st is our financial aid document deadline and is our transfer student intent to register deadline for our transfer students. And then new student orientations will begin June 25th through July 21st, and you'll have an opportunity to sign up for one of those new student orientations. And there are several in between those dates that are scheduled. And then finally, fall semester instruction begins August 24th. So I want to let you know also that we use your email address on your FAFSA or California Dream application to send our initial communications. Once you register for classes, we will then use your UC Merced email address, and all communications will go to your UC Merced email at that point. Next slide, please. Finally, if you have any additional questions after this presentation, please feel free to contact our Students First Center. Information is on the screen there. There's also a link to a contact us form that's an easy way to get a response from our Students First Center, as well as any of the offices that they provide support for, including our admissions office, our registrar office, and the financial aid office. With that, Ricky, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ron, for that great and informative presentation. I hope our audience were taking good notes throughout that, or little screenshots along the way. If not, you are in luck because we are ready to start taking your questions live. So I'd like to go into a couple here. I have a few different resources where they're coming in, so bear with me. It looks like the first one we have here is how would someone know that they've been awarded the Blue and Gold Financial Aid Award? And Ron, if you'd like me to skip back to any slides, just let me know and I can do that.
Yeah, no problem. The Blue and Gold is opportunity plan is a promise that you'll have enough gift aid to cover your system-wide tuition and fees. It's not an actual award as much as in combination of all of your gift aid, it will cover at least your state university tuition and fees. So if by chance your gift aid is not enough to cover your state university or your UC system-wide tuition and fees, then we will add additional Bobcat grant so that you have enough to cover those fees. So it isn't a specific award as much as it's a promise that your system-wide tuition and fees will be covered by some form of gift aid.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Another question that's coming in here a couple of times, they're asking about the middle class scholarship and what those restrictions might be or how someone is eligible for that.
Well, the state of California is revamping the middle class scholarship. So we are also waiting to find out what the eligibility requirements will be. I mean, we know that there'll have to be household incomes below 191,000 to even be considered. Typically in the past, what has occurred is it's not specifically for lower income students. It's really trying to target the more middle class students who don't get a lot of gift aid. But we're still waiting for the state to come out with what the criteria is and how to award it. So at this point, we don't know that information.
Very good. And then we do have a couple more questions coming in that are referring back to the estimated cost of attendance. Would you be able to review that again? I can jump back to that slide if that's helpful as a visual.
Sure. I don't remember which slide it was, but
yeah, I'm finding it right now. I think we are here.
So the estimated cost of attendance is just that. It's an estimate of what your cost of attendance will be to live and go to school for the 9 months that you're here. So we know for sure what the tuition and fees are. We don't know exactly what the cost will be for your books and supplies. We don't know exactly what your room and meal plan will cost you because it depends on which type of room you select, if you're living on campus and what meal plan you have. Transportation expenses, that's just an estimate of how much it costs you to go home once or twice a term, maybe if you have an off-campus job or whatever. So basically, we just put an estimate in there for transportation. That's not something you're paying to the university. It's just what we think it will cost you to live and go to school for the time that you're here. Same with miscellaneous personal expenses. Those are expenses like toiletries and other things that we know that you're going to need to live, but we don't know how much that's going to be. So we have an estimate in there. And that's not, again, something you're paying to the university. And then the health insurance and what the mandatory health insurance amount is, and that you may be eligible for a waiver if you have comparable health insurance. So those are the components of the estimated cost of attendance budget, and we use that budget to help us determine how much in aid to award you. But those are not your actual costs. Your actual costs are going to depend on, what your room and board is, of the type of room that you select, whether it's a double, a triple, a quad, what meal plan you select, what type of books you buy, like if they're ebooks or used books or new books. So those are going to be your actual expenses. We're just estimating what they're going to be.
Very good. Thanks, Ron. And then you did mention that health insurance. I know earlier we did talk about that waiver. So I'd like to go ahead and pop that back up on the screen for people in case they didn't have a chance to grab that link. And hopefully one of our behind the scenes chatters, if you guys can drop that into the chat box for everyone to actually be able to click on, that would be really great.
Yeah, there is a window of time when you have to submit a waiver. And I believe if you go to that website, it will show you what that window is. There's usually a couple of months. I don't have it open in front of me, but usually it starts around May and goes for a couple of months until the deadline. So if you believe that you're eligible for a waiver, make sure that you submit the documents that they're requesting.
Thanks, Ron. And I do have that website here. I will go ahead and drop that into our Zoom chat here for our audience if you all would like to click on that and take a look, or at least bookmark that for later on. And the dates that Ron mentioned, they are listed there. So it does look like the fall 2022 that it opens on May the 1st, and then there is a closing date, it looks like in August. So definitely make sure that you are marking your calendar for all of those important dates. All right, the next question coming up. When will students be notified if they've received an academic merit scholarship?
We are still working on awarding freshman scholarships. We hope to be done within the next week or so. And then we will start working on transfer scholarships in early April. So depending on if you're a freshman or a transfer student, if you're a freshman, you're probably going to know something within the next 2 weeks if you've been awarded any scholarships. And then if you're a transfer student, you may not know until sometime in April.
All right, very good. Thank you. The next question we have here, let's take a look. Can you explain what it means by waiving tuition for 6 years? What does that mean exactly?
It's not a waiver for 6 years. What it is freezing your tuition for 6 years. So can we go back to the cost of attendance budgets for a second? So the tuition and fees that you see here, the tuition and fees are, the fees are a combination. That's campus-based fees basically, and the tuition is a system-wide tuition. And so the portion of your tuition and fees that's UC system-wide tuition will be frozen for up to 6 years or until you graduate. So you don't have to worry about your tuition going up significantly in the years to come. It gives some stability to you as a student, knowing that at least that component of your expenses will not go up significantly. Now, there are campus-based fees in here, which are fees based on the campus. From campus to campus, there are fees that most of them are through student fee referendums to support different things like activities and workout facilities, etc., that the students vote on to basically assess fees to give themselves those activities and other things on campus. And so that varies from campus to campus. And so the campus-based fees may change a little bit from year to year, but the system-wide fees won't, they'll be frozen. Now, the other portion or the other components of the financial aid budget will change from year to year because our estimates change on, what room and board will cost and what your transportation, miscellaneous, and your health insurance will cost. That will change from year to year, but at least your system-wide tuition will stay the same.
Very good. Now, we also have several questions coming in related to scholarships. So we'll try to get to all of those or maybe combine several of them right now. So one of them or several are talking about scholarship eligibility. Can you go into a little more detail about what that eligibility looks like?
So with scholarships, as I mentioned earlier, we use the data from your admissions application to determine all incoming student scholarships. Student scholarships, we look at GPAs above 3.25 for all of our incoming scholarships. Different scholarships have different GPA requirements. Some scholarships have major requirements. It just depends on the donor that set up the scholarship and what the criteria is. So scholarships kind of differ in their criteria from scholarship to scholarship. So we go through and basically rank the students based on different components, whether it's GPA or some scholarships may be for students from a certain region, maybe Northern California versus Southern or Central Valley or whatever. And so we look at the students that meet all the criteria for the scholarship and rank them in order and then make our awards. Some scholarships are merit-based, which means you don't have to have financial need, and most are need-based and merit-based combination. So that would mean that you would have to have financial need, and we will also look at GPA to award those scholarships. The one that immediately comes to my mind that's merit-based only is our Regent Scholars. It doesn't matter if you have an aid application on file or not, if you have financial need or not. The Regent Scholars scholarship is purely merit-based. So that's probably our single largest merit-based scholarship. Like I said, most of them are a combination of need and merit-based.
Wonderful. And then a follow-up question for that one. Someone's asking, do you have to be committed to the school in order to apply to any of the scholarships that we do offer?
Well, again, you're not applying to the scholarships. We're using your admissions application data to determine your scholarship eligibility. So you've already applied for admission to UC Merced. We will look at your admissions application data and we will make determinations on scholarship offers. Those scholarship will be awarded prior to, in most instances, prior to the student intent to register deadline. So you will know probably before that deadline if you're a freshman, and before the transfer deadline if you've been awarded some sort of scholarship.
Very good. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to continue to scan here through the questions. And once again, just a reminder, if you do have questions for us tonight, go ahead and use that Q&A button and drop those in. We do still have some time here to get to those live. All right. So are there any state students or out-of-state students that are eligible for any of our financial aid or scholarships?
We do have scholarships that do not specifically say you have to be a California resident. So in those instances, we will look at all students in the pool of eligibility, including our non-resident students. And then we also have some scholarships for international students. That would be our global grant scholarship. So we do have various scholarships for international, non-resident, as well as resident students.
Wonderful. And then can we also remind our audience tonight, how will they be notified about their financial aid award offer?
So we are printing and mailing a physical award offer to you, which hopefully you will receive here within days, hopefully by next week some point. But if you want to look at what your aid offer is now, you can actually log into our Connect portal and view your financial aid award. And that was a couple of slides that I went through earlier in the presentation.
Very good. And then we've also had a few questions just asking for us to review their financial aid award letter. I'll go ahead and bring that back up. Is there anything that you'd like to touch on while this is up on the screen, Ron?
That's just the URL to our Connect web portal. If you go to the next slide. So this just gives you a preview of what the Connect portal is. And then the next slide. So this, once you log into that portal, on the left will be the first thing you see, which is basically step one, which is identify who you are, and you would be a student. And so you would click on that. Step two in the middle would be, you would click on undergraduate student. And then step three on the right is, first you would have to go down to UCM Net ID and claim your Net ID to get access to the system. Once you get access, then you click on My Merced. Next slide. And once you get into My Merced, on the left, you'll see My Financial Aid, which is circled there on the bottom left. And then that will take you to the financial aid dashboard. And on the right there, it says award offer, and you can click on that to see your award offer.
Fantastic. Thanks, Ron, for that quick refresh on those slides. Now, we do also have some questions coming in regarding WUI, and what that stands for is Western Undergraduate Exchange. And do we have, I'm not sure, Ron, if you'd like to touch on this, or if we have another speaker that would like to speak about WUI and how that works with financial aid and their tuition?
Sure. So maybe I can say a little bit about it. And Dustin, if you want to jump on, then you can talk about it as well. So we have basically agreements through the Western Undergraduate Exchange Program with some of our adjacent states. There are several states that are in the WUI program. And that just means that instead of paying out of non-resident tuition, the student would pay 150% of resident tuition, which is much less than non-resident tuition. Dustin, do you want to speak a little bit more about the WUI program?
Sure, I'm happy to talk a little bit more about that. And hi, everyone. My name is Dustin Oji. I'm the Director of Admissions. So the WUI program, for those students that qualify, you'll notice that you are awarded the WUI within your Connect portal. So when you first log in to view your admissions decision, you should receive a message that said you've been awarded the WUI. And as Ron mentioned before, the WUI is based upon your GPA and your major that you've applied to. If you've So if you feel like you should have been considered WUI and weren't considered for WUI, you're welcome to contact the Office of Admissions. The way that WUI is awarded on our campus is it is a tuition discount. So it will not appear as a financial aid award. It will instead be a discount on your total bill for the semester, for the year.
Thank you, Dustin.
Thank you both so much for that. All right, so we are just going through some other questions here. We do have several that have been repeated, so bear with me here. Here's a question. Do you still qualify for grants if you're also using your GI Bill?
If you have a GI Bill, you're going to be eligible for any federal grants that have been awarded to you. So if you have a Pell Grant or an SEOG grant, you will retain those. If you have a state Cal Grant, the issue with Cal Grant is that it is earmarked to specifically cover fees, tuition and fees. If you have a VA fee waiver, it is specifically to waive your fees. So you can't have both of those things. It's either one or the other. We would suggest that you use Cal Grant if you have Cal Grant eligibility, because Cal Grant is a renewable grant for up to 4 years. And then if the student doesn't graduate within that 4-year period, then you could look at using your VA waiver for additional years. But basically, if they have the Cal Grant, I would recommend using that before the waiver. Also, if you've been awarded any Bobcat grant and then have a waiver, the Bobcat grant is calculated based on your unmet need. And when you waive your fees, that reduces your unmet need. So then we end up having to reduce your Bobcat grant. So it could have an effect on the student's total aid package. My recommendation would be to talk with our VA deputy, who is in our registrar's office, and coordinate your VA benefits with them. And then at that point, they will coordinate with us on your financial aid. And you can also at that point come and talk with one of our financial aid advisors, and we can let you know how your aid is going to be impacted if you use your VA waiver.
Wonderful, thanks, Ron. Now, I know that we talked a little bit about earlier in the presentation, we spoke on what type of loans are available for some students, from subsidized, unsubsidized, parent loans. Can you touch a little bit on those again? And I can also bring up that slide for folks okay. If our audience wants to take a picture of that for later.
Sure. So there are really 4 main types of student loans. The first one is for students who complete the DREAM application, which is the California DREAM application. In that particular loan, there's no interest or payments on that loan until 6 months after you either graduate or drop below half-time enrollment, and it has a fixed interest rate. And then for students who complete the federal student aid application, you may be awarded one or a combination of the following loans, which would be a subsidized loan, which is no interest or payments until 6 months after you either graduate or drop below half-time enrollment. An unsubsidized loan, which the interest begins immediately, but you can elect not to make payments and have the interest capitalized back into the loan when you begin repayment, or a parent loan. And this is a loan taken out by the parents on behalf of their student. The parent is the borrower. There is a credit approval process. The interest begins immediately and payments begin when the loan is fully dispersed. However, the parent can request a deferment of the student payments or the loan payments while the student is enrolled at least half-time, which means the interest is going to capitalize on that loan if you're not making payments on it. And then once the student either graduates or drops below half-time enrollment, then your payments would begin at that point. There are also a few private loans, what we call private alternative loans. And those are outside lenders that we have some affiliation with if for some reason a student has kind of maxed out on these loans and really needs an additional loan on top of these loans. But we wouldn't recommend an alternative loan, especially if you can borrow one of these other loans, because the alternative loans have much higher interest rates and different repayment terms that are not as favorable as these federal loans.
Very good. Thank you so much, Ron. Now, we do also have one of our colleagues behind the scenes, Lisa Perry, the director of the Students First Center. She'd like to come on for just a quick minute. Welcome, Lisa. And she'd like to give you a little bit more information about our checklist.
Hello, everybody. My name is Lisa Perry, and as Ricky said, I'm the director of our Students First Center. We are your campus one-stop shop for getting help with questions about admissions, financial aid, registration, and billing. If you have called us, you've probably talked to the Students First Center. I saw some questions coming in tonight related to the checklist, and so I just wanted to give you kind of a brief overview of how to use your checklist. Awesome. So the checklist is dynamic. It updates as you turn things in. To complete something on your checklist, you're going to click on that blue kind of underlined link item, and then it's going to take you to a new page that will explain that checklist item to you and then give you the actions for actually completing the item. Some documents are documents that you're going to upload directly to your checklist. And if that's the case, when you click on this link here, the next page will have a submit online feature, and that's where you're going to upload your documents. It's super easy. The other question I saw coming in tonight is that some items on students' checklists don't have deadlines on them. And one of the examples on here is the Title IV authorizations. Yes, it doesn't have a deadline associated with it, but I recommend doing it sooner rather than later so you don't forget about it. And that Title IV authorizations right there, it's similar to kind of like a user agreement, as is your award terms and conditions. They're simply just things you need to read through and make a decision on. There aren't any documents associated with it. Ron, do you want to talk a little bit more about the award terms and conditions if we haven't already? Because I saw a couple of questions come in on that too.
Now, award terms and conditions are basically student disclosures that you need to be aware of. So it's basically just indicating that you've read and agreed to the terms and conditions of receiving financial aid. So you just need to read through those, and then basically it's just a checkbox.
Yeah, I kind of tell sorry, Ron. I kind of tell students it's like when you download an app and you have to read and agree to their terms and conditions. These are your terms and conditions for getting financial aid at UC Merced. And as I was sitting here, I saw one more question pop through about the checklist, which is I've submitted an item and I'm wondering when I'm going to get an update. Well, as you can see on this screen right here, I'm moving my mouse like you all can see what I'm doing. You see some of the items are red X's and some of the items are a yellow triangle. And then you've got the status column that says unsatisfied, verification in process. So as you turn things in, that status column should be updating. If you turn something in and the item hasn't changed to either in process or under review, then your upload may not have gone through and you might want to contact us. But that status column should be telling you if something is being looked at. And please keep in mind that when we do get lots of documents from people, it can take us a little bit of time to review things, but we do post our processing timelines on our websites. And maybe if one of my helpful friends on chat could post the processing timelines, that would be great. And I think that's it.
Fantastic. You guys did a great job zipping through those last couple of points that we did want to hit on this evening. So a couple more quick reminders, but before I jump into that and do our quick closing here, Ron, is there anything that you'd like to leave our audience with this evening?
Sure. Well, first off, thank you for joining us. We hope to see you in the fall. The other thing I'd like to tell you is that if you, for some reason, have not yet completed your financial aid application, whether it's a federal application or the state application or DREAM students, please do so immediately. The federal application, the priority deadline was still March 2nd, but the state has extended at least their internal deadline or Cal Grant consideration to April 1st. So even if you are a late applicant at this point, if you get it in before April 1st and you're a California resident, you will be considered for Cal Grant eligibility. So make sure you do that. And finally, if you log into the Connect portal and you do not see a financial aid award and you know you completed an application, please double check that you have entered our school code on your application, because that's how we get your information, is by you submitting our school code on your aid application. And if it isn't on there, you can just update your application to include our school code. If it is on there and you still don't have an award, please contact our Students First Center and they'll help you. With that, thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Ron, Lisa, Dustin, everyone that's been on with us tonight behind the scenes, the fantastic questions that have been coming in from our very engaging audience. We wouldn't be here without you. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. Before we do send you off for the rest of your evening, I do have a couple more quick announcements for you. This event tonight, much like all the other Become a Bobcat events, it has been recorded. If you'd like to watch this later on demand, give us a couple days just to get that up to our YouTube channel, but you will be able to find the link for the instant replay on Become a Bobcat, a virtual series website. One of our behind the scenes friends will go ahead and drop that link into the chat so you can bookmark that for later reference. Another very important update, we are so excited to be taking this show on the road to our regional admission receptions. So please take a look at that website as well. We have lots of websites. We'll go ahead and drop that in the chat box for you. We do have a couple that are coming up in April, which is right around the corner. So make sure that you take a moment to get registered. We have an event coming up in Sacramento on April the 1st. We have one in Santa Clara on April the 2nd, and we will also be taking this on the road down south to Los Angeles on April the 3rd. So please take a look at that website, get yourself registered to save your spot. And you also get to meet a bunch of us there too. So it's very exciting for us to get to meet you in person. All right, so just a couple more things here. If you have not had a chance yet to visit our campus in person, just a quick FYI, we do offer campus tours, in-person campus tours. So please take a look at the website tours.ucmerced.edu. We will also drop that in the chat box for you as well. You can get yourself and your family signed up to come and walk around our beautiful campus. If for some reason you're not able to make it in person, we also have some drone tours and other virtual tours available online. So please take a look that way as well. We definitely are so excited to share our lovely campus with you. Once again, my name's been Ricky Hill tonight, and I guess all the time Ricky Hill, but I'm your e-recruiter and I've been your moderator this evening. This has been a really fun night. We are so excited to welcome you as Bobcat's newly admitted students here at UC Merced. Thank you so much for joining us. Keep a lookout on your email for more upcoming fun events and dates and deadlines. For now, I'd like to thank you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful night, everybody.